Do you have any, and this, in some sense, this is a lot of projection, you know. You kind of look at, and I think this is, you know, what we're doing is that you get something like, I know the I Ching, it's something for you to reflect on and project about in terms of what it's saying. What are you feeling here? In regards to the answer it has given us to, what about Bill Barney's comment?
Well, it's still going on. His comment.
Okay. His comment, it's still going on.
Well, what is our class accomplished?
What has our class accomplished?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And that's it. That's interesting. What has it accomplished? As a class and as individuals, I suppose you gotta, you know, look at that as a concept, don't you?
Yeah.
Well, I look at it the same way that you're looking at it, Ken. Especially when you begin to look at, you know, to me, you know, we could look at this as, you know, this first card, you know, which is the 7. I'm going to call it the swords, okay, and it could be staffs too, but the swords, what that they're in the ground and this guy is tied up, you know, and some things. Each time you look at some things, you could look at that and say, okay, what is that? That's how would you go back and talk about that as a signifier? Signifier?
Significator.
Significator. How do you look at that? That's the main card, isn't it? Is that one of the main cards?
Well, yeah.
So how do you look at that in the context of our class? That it is tied up, or it was tied up?
Was tied up.
It was tied up. Okay.
It fought a good fight.
It what?
Fought a good fight.
It fought a good fight. Okay. And the class fought a good fight. Okay, that's interesting. And then we've got, you know, the battle scenes, the Wheel of Fortune. Boy, there's a lot there. And then this kind of resurrection down to the balance, the female, the cups, and the pentacle again. You know, when I look at this thing, Kenny, you know, I look at it, and when I originally had this idea a long time ago about, you know, working through this question, and you do this all the time. You put yourself into the cards, or you put yourself into the reading of the I Ching. And like one time I threw the I Ching, and I threw it for President Bush. Remember that time I threw it for President Bush? So I was actually asking the question for him. And so I also see this as me, Steve Sherling, tied up. And that's kind of the situation I see myself now in with the class of 62. I'm tied up, and they've tied me up in some aspects, and I'm trying to, I've got my swords, but I don't quite know how to use my swords, okay?
Those aren't swords.
Okay, wands. Okay? Whatever they are, a wand is a weapon, as well as a sword is a weapon, but it's probably a different use of the weapon, right? And whatever happens here, I mean, they go into, I'll say, you know, wands of swords again, and he's on the horse, and then it comes back to joy. The Wheel of Fortune means that even that joy is still subject to a Wheel of Fortune, isn't it? You don't see that?
I don't know.
It's hard to say. But obviously, on this side of the equation, there's some judgment coming, isn't there?
Judgment coming always.
Always judgment coming, yeah.
Yeah, I gotta lay down.
Okay, let me just take a picture of this real quick, and then we'll go. Well, that's the cards, Ken, and maybe we can talk a little bit more about it. But I'm just saying that I see a group concept in here and individual interpretation of it in some sense.